Life before death. Strength before weakness.
Journey before destination.
Welcome to The Storming Journey, a sacred text reading of The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Welcome to The Storming Journey. Today is our introductory episode where we'll be covering how we got started, the goals of the podcast, why we chose the names we did, the format that we're going for, our spoiler policies, very important, details about the hosts so you can get to know us, and how to support and connect with us. My name is Liz Busby. I'm Elle Call.
And I'm Adam McLain.
Okay, Elle, will you start us off by telling us how you got the idea for this podcast? Because you're the one who brought us all together.
Of course. In July of 2023, I was reading The Power of Ritual by Casper ter Kuile, and I really liked the idea of treating books as sacred text. And the Stormlight Archive in particular was a series that came to mind specifically because I'd had discussions about the books from a spiritual perspective with people, and I really enjoyed those discussions. But I didn't have anyone that I could do it with at the time, and other things were going on in my life. So I put the idea on the back burner until February of 2025 when I reached out to Liz. She and I both hung out in the Association for Mormon Letters Discord server, where she posted some things regarding her Stormlight Focus master's thesis. But since both of us were doing degree programs, we bounced around ideas for the next few months, but we didn't start anything yet. Said we'd come back to it in September. And then in June of 25, I happened to start chatting with Adam at the Mormon History Association conference, and Liz happened to be nearby. And so when I had brought up the idea for the podcast, we all quickly realized that he would make a great third host. And the rest, of course, is history.
So I'll tell us a little bit about the intentions and goals of this podcast. What are we here for? Why do we want people listening to us?
And what can they expect to hear if they're listening to us?
So first, as a major disclaimer, this is a fully fan-made unofficial podcast. We are not affiliated with Brandon Sanderson or Dragonsteel, and we don't speak for them in any capacity. Our opinions are solely our own and are not the opinions of our employers. Just FYI, for the course of the entire podcast, that will continue to be the case. But our goal for this podcast is to help people connect with the Stormlight Archive on a spiritual level, and also to develop ways of engaging with text from a spiritual perspective. And we want to be able to hear from not just members who share the same religious background as us, but we want to hear from members of all faiths in terms of how they engage with these books and what connections they see to their own religious beliefs and traditions. So one of the other goals I had is, because Brandon Sanderson is himself Mormon, as all of us hosts have some connection to that, I wanted to look at how his faith and religion may have informed the books, whether that's in plot points or nods to various Mormon culture things, or just religious tones or concepts in general, and really explore how that may interact with the literature.
I think that's so important because Mormonism, a lot of people think they know it because they know Christianity, but it's a slantwise version of Christianity. And so it's interesting to look at the difference that makes in the way that he includes religion in the books. So you don't have to be Mormon to follow this podcast, but you will find out some interesting things about Mormons if you follow this podcast.
Yeah, the other part of that is that I feel like a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about what Mormonism is and isn't. One of those things tends to be that it's a cult, or that it's a horrible, racist, homophobic church. While there are elements of racism and homophobia and transphobia and other issues in the church, we're coming into this clear-eyed and acknowledging that those things exist, But what we're choosing to focus on is the positive elements of the sacred, the divine, the religious that we find in Mormonism and that we can connect to the Stormlight Archive. So we strive to be respectful of religious beliefs and traditions, and we want to ask others to be respectful of ours in return. Hate speech regarding religion, including accusations that Mormonism is a cult, hate speech regarding sexuality, gender, or other identities will not be permitted in our community, whether that's on our website, our Discord server, or other social media platforms. So the podcast is titled The Storming Journey, which I was very proud of coming up with the name for that because I really like it.
We're all proud of you of that, Al.
Thank you.
We're all proud.
So I like it because of two elements. One, it connects with the first radiant ideal of journey before destination, because spirituality and connection with the divine is a journey, not a destination. And not only that, but storming is a quasi-swear word in the books. It's difficult to tell how strong of an expletive it is, but it very much sounds like a Mormon swear a la Everclean's Dang Fetch Oh My Heck, which I definitely grew up listening to. Our company name or production name is Out of the Best Books, which is a reference to a verse found in LDS scripture, Doctrine and Covenants, section 88, verse 118, which reads, "And as all have not faith, seek ye diligently, and teach one another words of wisdom. Yea, seek ye out of the best books words of wisdom. Seek learning, even by study, and also by faith." Yes. So at the rate that we are releasing episodes, and considering how long Sanderson's books are, at minimum, this is a 12-year project for the first 5 books. So a single name for publication of the episodes gives us a way to switch out hosts if at any time one of us decides that we need to step back for whatever reason without upsetting the system. Theoretically, this may give us room to expand in the future if we found other trusted hosts to do a network with. Throughout the podcast, we are going to be using the terms Mormon and Mormonism. Although the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has preferred the full use of its name or a limited selection of shortened versions since October of 2018, Mormon and Mormonism capture an essence of culture and tradition that is at least partially independent of the LDS Church as an institution. All of us hosts also currently interact with the field of Mormon studies in an academic capacity, where Mormon continues to be used to represent a broader community that includes a spectrum of LDS Church attendants and other religious communities that also originated with Joseph Smith.
So our format for the podcast is that we plan on releasing roughly weekly on Wednesdays, so that in the middle of the week, you can have a nice little uplift of our beautiful voices coming into your ears, talking about the wonderful, wonderful world of Roshar. Make that the storming, wonderful world of Roshar. We will let y'all know during the episodes if any of that will change, or we'll let you know through social media or through other means if that's going to change. But right now we're hoping weekly on Wednesdays. We encourage you to read along with us. Almost every episode is going to cover just one chapter. Sometimes we truncate the chapters if they're a little short, or if, for example, one covers just a very long hunt. Maybe we've combined those a little bit. You'll know from the episode title what chapters we're dealing with so that you can read along with us and have a fun adventure in Roshar. Each episode is going to have a roughly similar structure. Each of us will take a role within each episode. One will be the Ardent, who's going to lead the episode, who's going to select the theme and the sacred reading method, and they're the one who really has the control and the authority of guiding that episode forward. Then we have the World Singer, who will bring you a little bit outside of the world of Roshar, more into our theme and, bringing in the real world application of what we're talking about. And then the Veristitalian, who's going to be our knowledge holder for the episode, the person who summarizes the chapter. Just in case you aren't reading along, or if you want to hear our summaries of each chapter, it's a little fun part where we're going to briefly assess what's happening in the chapter and kind of highlight the things that we're looking at sacredly. Each episode is going to begin with a world singing. That'll be our opening story that we begin with. And then after that, we'll have our Storm's Eye view given by the Veristitalian, which is a roughly 100-word summary. Elle's doing something special. that we'll talk about in the episodes coming forward about that 100-word summary. But it's a short summary that just helps center you into the chapter. And then we'll spend some time examining the text to that specific theme that we read it through. And then sometime during that discussion, there may be optional segments that we engage in. Right now, we're foreseeing 3 optional segments, but we always reserve the right to add any more if we want to. Those 3 are the Artifabrian Journal, which is a discussion of specific literary techniques. I think all of us, as you'll learn when we talk about ourselves in just a little bit, are people who bring literary discipline to our reading and an academic approach to that. So the Artifabrian Journal lets us kind of nerd out on the fun word things that Brandon does. Then we'll have a Mormon moment, an optional segment again, where we might create specific connections to Mormonism. Liz likes to call these hat tips, where perhaps Brandon has, inserted a little bit of his personal religion into there, or just, inserted what we all, as people who have grown up in the church or interacted with it for a while can recognize. And then the third optional segment is the World Hopper Connections, which is where we try to relate the text to something beyond the Stormlight Archive. So to other books that we've read, to other movies we've seen, or to other things that are happening without the books, since I think all 3 of us believe that literature doesn't just exist inside the pages, it exists in a context around how we are engaging with it. Then after, talking a little bit through the theme, we're going to do a specific sacred reading method where we are pulling from different religious traditions, where we're trying to be respectful of them as we engage with their sacred methods of approaching their sacred texts. We may also be creating, we are creating, we're not, this is not a may.
Not a surprise.
We're going to be creating some of our own reading methods as well that are Roshar-based, so Rosharan reading methods that are sacred. So, for example, one of those is reading through the ideals and thinking about them in relation to the chapters. And others might be from the Mormon tradition itself. So we have ideas like likening or kin making that you're going to hear about in upcoming episodes, where we try to pull in from a Mormon hermeneutic, per se, in order to bring that into our discussion and into how we're approaching these texts.
Adam, can you define for our listeners what hermeneutic means if they don't remember?
Hermeneutic, it's our favorite word.
I do remember. I do know what it is, but it's a very complicated word. I want to just make sure it's clear.
Well, people should use dictionaries. I'm kidding, but everyone should use a dictionary. They're the most important things in the world. So hermeneutics is like a approach or a stance towards something. Whenever I see a hermeneutic, I always think of it's a way of seeing the world in some way or a way of approaching something. So a Mormon hermeneutic is approaching something in a Mormon way. I think that's the simplest explanation for it. But Liz and Elle will always stop me when I use my big words and make me become my dictionaries.
Be clear, I also love big words, but I also got hung up on the word soteriological for like 3 months and could not get past it in a book because my brain could not remember what it meant. So like, I needed ADHD meds is really the solution.
The better word is eschatological.
Yeah, I like that one, but that one stays in my head better.
That's true. Soteriological is not one that you use every day.
No, it's not.
Elle, what does soteriological mean?
It means the doctrines of salvation, the doctrines of salvation.
It's like a religion's approach to how mankind is saved, whereas eschatological is how man is exalted.
And theodicy is how the problem of suffering is resolved.
We should do an episode on the theology of Roshar. Anyway.
Okay, most of that can probably be cut, but anyways, thank you for explaining.
I don't want to cut any of that, actually.
See what we do.
Okay.
I have the editing powers.
All right, just a really quick recap after that brief jaunt into Natan, or Natan, and that's it. Try remembering every world in Roshar, and you don't. This is why you need a Wikipedia or a Coppermind. So every episode will have a world singing, a Storm's Eye view, a part where we talk about the theme, engagements with different literary techniques, with Mormonism, or with the world beyond Roshar, and then a sacred reading. And we'll finish it all with a Wisdom of the Herald section, which is where we think of what we can take from our discussion and from the text into our daily lives. So that's the application. for the Mormon hermeneutic, the likening to ourselves. We also do want to let you know that spoilers abound. You are now warned. You are bound to us. I am sorry. There will be spoilers right in the next episode. So make sure you've read all the way up to Wind and Truth.
Through Wind and Truth.
Through, yeah. Not just up to it. You have to read actual Wind and Truth. So we apologize that if you don't want any spoilers, you need to read all millions of words, which is a good thing. Like, it's good to read Stormlight many, many times. But just for clarity, spoilers abound for all the Stormlight Archive books through Wind and Truth. The first episode, which is not this episode, the next one, directly compares the beginning arc of Way of Kings to the end arc in Wind and Truth. You've been warned, and may you have good wind in your sails after this. Our policy here, though, is to generally avoid spoilers for other Cosmere books. We're going to keep spoilers roughly, hopefully, to internal to Roshar. But if we do feel it's necessary to be explicit about a spoiler for another book, we'll make a note of that in the episode and suggest skipping ahead through that, especially when we get to the more complicated pieces in the later parts of the book.
So, Liz, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, let's talk about our backgrounds. So I'm Liz Busby. I just graduated with my master's in English from BYU. And yes, I wrote my master's thesis on the Stormlight Archive. So that's where I am. I'm committed to this project. Positionality-wise, let's see. I am still an active member of the church. I am married. I have 4 kids who are getting older. So I'm kind of in an interesting stage of life where I'm teaching my kids to drive, and you will probably hear lots about my struggles with letting them go and agency and those kinds of things. It's very fun. What else? I like to knit, and I used to be a long distance runner. I ran half marathons until my back got destroyed, and so now we're just hobbling along through the 5Ks. That's where I'm at.
What radiant order are you?
Well, yes, we do need to share our radiant orders. I am a truth watcher. In fact, all of the people in our family who've taken the quiz are truth watchers. So we're a family of truth watchers.
Elle, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Elle Call. Elle is short for Elena, but most people don't pronounce that right, so I usually go by Elle professionally. I just barely finished up, technically, my master's degree in corpus linguistics through a distance program in a school based in England. And I say technically because I haven't gotten my grade back yet, but I'm assuming I passed. So I have a background generally in linguistics, but my research focus is on the history of the LDS Sunday School program, then linguistic research on the curriculum and the manuals themselves. So my connection with Mormonism is I grew up in the church. I still participate in the church. My favorite way to do so is when I am playing the organ for the congregation. That has long been an interest of mine. And music is something that connects me with other people and with the divine. My connection with the Cosmere is a little less academic than Liz. I just like the books. I read some of them when I was in college and then took like an 8-year break from them. I don't remember. I know that Words of Radiance, I think, had maybe come out. And then I think Rhythm of War came out. And I started reading them again. So that was real nice to be able to like catch up on all of those things in the meantime. And now I am absolutely and utterly obsessed with them, and I am an edge dancer, which should surprise nobody given that I study history-related things now. I am married. I have 1 kid. He is 7, and we have 2 little Shih Tzus. Both of them are adorable. One of them barks too much, but we love her anyways. And I have way too many hobbies. I think my hobby is collecting hobbies and starting projects, which I seem to keep doing. Adam, what about you?
So my name is Adam McLain. My background is I have a lot of education and it includes a lot of space to with it. No. So I got a bachelor's degree in English from BYU. While at BYU, I served as the managing editor and editor-in-chief at Leading Edge magazine for 3 years. So that connected me intimately with Brandon and the group at Dragonsteel, but also with the broader Mormon speculative fiction community in general. After BYU, I went over to Harvard to get a degree in theology. I tell people it was to deal with religious trauma, but I didn't want to go to therapy. So instead I got a master's degree in it, which didn't help, but I can say soteriological now and eschatological. I know what they mean. But after I moved to Harvard, I am now at the University of Connecticut, where I got a master's of English, and now I am a 4th year in their PhD in English program, and I'm also a 2nd year in their JD program at their law school. So I go to school all day and then go to school all night. I was talking about collecting hobbies. I tell people law school is my hobby, which is not a good hobby to have.
See, I thought you were going to say you collect degrees.
That too. In English, I study dystopian literature. I study American literature from 1945 onward, roughly. So it's broadly 20th, 21st century. I focus on feminism, and then I focus on law and literature. So reading and understanding literature through the law and understanding the law through literature in many different ways. The dissertation is on some feminist dystopian texts by Margaret Atwood, Lois Airdrich, and Octavia Butler. That's where we're at right now. It always changes as I'm learning. I came into this with a big head of like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And it's been a fun adventure since then. It's been a journey before destination, friends, journey before destination. But basically what I tell people that I do is I get to teach, read, and write all day. And so really I'm just living my life until I can't be paid to do it anymore. Or until I have to join a big law firm to pay for my lifestyle. So my connection to Cosmere and the Stormlight Archive and to Brandon, again, Leading Edge was the first introduction there. Go check it out. It's a fun little magazine that BYU puts out, but it's where Brandon really started stinking his teeth in many years ago, and where I've been able to start with my own teeth into speculative fiction. To Brandon Sanderson's book specifically, I remember my sister sharing with me Elantris, and I took it on a camping trip, and I did not read it. Someone else on the camping trip read it. And then it wasn't until like after my mission that I opened up Sanderson and started really liking the books, and read them ever since. So I probably read through the Stormlight Archive 10 to 15 times. It's my comfort read. It's the read that I go to whenever I'm stressed out. It is the read I listen to. You'll hear about Liz's running audiobook. It's Brandon Sanderson's, but Brandon Sanderson is my audiobook. And that might be because of Michael Kramer, but we'll talk about how his voice is luscious many times probably. But my radiant order is an else caller. Hopefully for obvious reasons. Maybe because Yasna is the love of my life and that's it. Although we would never do anything. She is the intellectual of my life, shall we say. And then my connection to Mormonism. So I grew up in the church. I was raised by a convert single mother. And then my dad is a lifelong member. So I had that kind of dual connection as I was growing up, even though they were divorced. And I naturally went on a mission to Dallas, Texas, where I got to meet a lot of people and talk about a lot of churches, hence my interest in studying religion more generally. Then I went to BYU. And then after BYU is where I kind of stopped attending church and being active in the participation of the community in that way. I have stayed in connection with the study of Mormonism, though. I find the theology and the ontology of all of it very fascinating. Its approach to humanity, its approach to how we as humans interact with each other and how we interact with the divine power to be really fascinating and intriguing way to think about life, and something that always reminds me of a different way. And I kind of like keeping that in my little milieu of what I think about and where my brain is. And so that's why I've stayed more connected to the church through the study of it rather than through the active participation within it.
All right. Liz, would you like to tell our listeners how to support and connect with us?
Yes. Podcasting is a great medium. It is not a lucrative one. and podcasting is not free. So we would appreciate it if you're in a position to help support this podcast if you appreciate the content that we put out. We will have a Patreon with 3-tier options, and there's early bird pricing right now for the first couple of people who sign up. That will get you access to bonus content, and you'll be able to join our Discord server and talk to us about how you feel about the episodes. We would love to hear from you guys about what you're experiencing in the chapters. So join our Patreon so we can chat with you about it. We will also have some merch up at our TeePublic store, so you can order t-shirts with our really cool logo designed by Elle's sister. It's amazing. So go and check those out and support the podcast that way. If we mention books in the podcast, we'll have bookshop affiliate links. And if you click in and buy a book through that link, that helps us with a small commission. What else? People need to know. Follow us on the podcast platform of your choice. We should be pretty much everywhere. We're also on YouTube if that's your preference. We have a website where we'll have episode posts and full transcripts if that's the way you prefer to interact with a podcast. You can also find information there about the sacred reading methods that we use, and especially the new ones that we invent. We will log those there so you can make your own use of them. Also, some good information there on Mormon-specific terminology if we forget to explain it, which we're going to try to do. We'll also be on some select social media. We know we're all kind of trying to detox from social media, but we will be on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Tumblr if you want to follow us there. You can also email us at contact@stormingjourney.com if you have questions or concerns or any thoughts you want to add to our discussion of each chapter.
Also, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Our favorite 3 words. But really, if you like, one of the things that helps podcast spread is when you give us a thumbs up or when you give us a review on your podcast app of choice. And so if you do like what we're doing, if you like this project and like what we're talking about, we would love to have you review and rate us on podcast websites, be that Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you receive us into your ears.
And doing that or telling your friends about us is free. So that is another way that you can support us.
Thank you for joining us today on The Storming Journey. You can support our work on this podcast by subscribing to our Patreon, leaving a review, or sharing the podcast with a friend. We hope you'll join us next week, and in the meantime, remember, journey before destination.
We need a closeout thing.
Okay, I've got one.
Life before death.
Strength before weakness.
Journey before destination.
Let the storming journey begin.